Hello and welcome to the world famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor and the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Luber. If you would like to contact me, all my contact links are in the description of the show. You can always call the listener hotline. I did fix the voicemail, so please give that a call, 303-832-0217. So I received an email pitch recently, and it was talking about the changes to travel regulations in the United States and in Europe, like the Real ID program. And the pitch people offered up my next guest to talk about that. But I was intrigued more than that pitch was that Maddi, who is my next guest, is from a website called RVShare. And I thought that was pretty interesting and an interesting topic to explore. So I invited Maddi Bourgerie, who is the Director of Communications and Travel Expert Spokesperson at RVShare, to be here on the show. Maddi, thanks so much for being here on the world famous Driving You Crazy podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So we could talk about some of the recent changes to travel, like Real ID and those sort of things, in just a little bit. But first thing, congratulate you on your recent marriage.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I am a newlywed as of last summer.
Yeah, and I imagine your new husband has to like RVing too, right?
You're correct on that. He actually also works at RVShare. That is where we met.
How convenient. I know. I met my wife in the radio TV business. So I think it's, a lot of people meet their spouses in the same business that they're in.
Yes, it's a big part of our story now. We actually got engaged in a van we rented in Maui, Hawaii. So,
oh, how fun. That's fun. That's a really good story. And I know you live in Austin, Texas now, but I also read you're from Carmel, Indiana, the home of the roundabout. How do you like roundabouts? Do you like them or loathe them?
I like them. Yes, I grew up there as those were all being put in. So it wasn't a great transition from every stoplight and stop sign becoming a roundabout and having to maneuver around town with closed roads all the time. But now that they're put in place, my family still lives there. So I was just back there last week, actually, and it does make traffic flow pretty well. So yeah. I don't mind them.
All right, good. I'll put you on the liking the roundabout list. All right, so I'll put you down there. Okay, as a brand spokesperson for RVShare, you obviously must like recreational vehicles. You were engaged in a rented van, as you said. Do you have a favorite style or size of RV?
I do, yes. I've worked at RVShare since 2019. Before that, I had actually never been on an RV trip. Travel is a big passion of mine, but RV travel was really not on my radar. So when I joined the company, I was excited about sharing this type of travel and learning more about RVs myself. RVShare has a great perk for all employees where you get a travel stipend every year. So you don't have to tell me twice. I will definitely take a free trip to try out any type of travel. So I quickly found that I loved RV travel and I'm extremely passionate about it today. But my favorite RV is pretty much anything Airstream makes. I really like the Airstream travel trailers. I've rented a Bambi model, which is a smaller, more compact model. I don't have a large truck, so pulling it with my Volvo SUV does work because it's under the certain weight limit, but Airstream is a legacy brand within the RV travel space. They've been around for many, many years, and I think just consistently have created a great product that also has, kind of this nostalgic feel to it. The insides are decorated pristinely, the layouts are amazing, and they're very stylish.
But can you really consider a travel trailer or a fifth wheel an RV? Because I think most people think RV as the one encompassing vehicle. You're driving the RV, not you're towing an RV.
Yeah, the towables, are classified as a recreational vehicle as well. There's so many different types of makes and models, and RVShare.com rents out more than 3,000 types of RVs. So it's anything from the more drivable, stereotypical RV up into a huge, large fifth wheel where you need a special vehicle that can pull, a large RV like a fifth wheel. And so, yeah, recreational vehicles kind of range greatly when it comes to what types you can see out on the road.
So I think RVs are a lot like cruise ships. Either you love them or you loathe them, right? So do you think more people are liking it? Do you think that people either just really like the RV, like a cruise, or they just really, it's just not for them?
Yeah, I could see that comparison for sure. It's definitely a unique trip type. And I think a lot of people have become more aware of RV travel in the past 5 or 6 years. We saw a huge uptick in interest during the COVID-19 pandemic, and a huge growth within our business. We also saw kind of the demographic of interested parties change. So I think before 2020, it was more considered, your parents' retirement plan. RVs
Right.
weren't seen as necessarily cool. But now we've seen a lot of younger generations embrace this type of travel as work loads have changed or flexibility has shifted, and like working remote has become popular. A lot of people have done extended trips, rented an RV, a van, and kind of done a work remote setup, with the usage of like things like Starlink and be able
Yeah.
to get Wi-Fi in the middle of nowhere. So we've seen the just overall industry really shift and change based on people's preferences and lifestyle changes in the last few years. But sure, I think, people, vary based on what they find fits their needs. I enjoy RV travel because it allows me to disconnect, get outside, experience some really cool places where there's not a hotel room or a cabin to rent. Yet I still enjoy a nice hotel with luxury sheets. So for me, I can lean both ways.
Right. My guest is Maddi Bourgerie. She's the director of communications and a travel expert, spokesperson at RVShare.com. In its simplest form, Maddi, what exactly does RVShare do for me as a person who might be interested in going on an RV trip?
Yes, so RVShare is an RV rental website where we connect travelers or renters like you looking to rent out an RV from an RV owner. So all of the RVs listed on RVShare are individually owned. We have them in all 50 states, more than 3,000 types of makes and models, but over 100,000 RVs to choose from. So when you go onto our site, you can narrow down what type of RV you're looking for and the location that you would like it. Majority of the RV trips are round trips. So you would, pick it up from Las Vegas, head out, experience some of the national parks and bring it right back to that. You could also obviously pick it up from where you live. So I could rent one here in Austin, Texas and explore a nearby state park. One of the more popular things we recommend is delivery. So you can actually have the RV delivered to your destination. So in that case, you wouldn't necessarily be doing the stereotypical road trip of driving it, but maybe you meet the RV at your destination, and this could mitigate any fears of driving a big rig yourself. So I've had it delivered at a music festival, at a NASCAR race, at a baseball game, also at a nearby state park where I just drive myself in my car, and meet the owner there, and they set it up for you. And it's a very easy and convenient way to experience staying in an RV without having to drive it yourself.
And that means they probably pick it up as well then.
Yes, correct.
So could they then deliver it to you? Like you said, you don't really see a lot of one ways. You just have the round trip. But could they deliver it to you, or could you pick it up and then just leave it somewhere and then have the owner go pick it up and then they can bring it back? I mean, you could do that.
Yeah, you could do that for sure. I've known people to do that on a road trip, for example, like maybe, you are trying to hit some of the great national parks out in Utah or Arizona, and you're making a road trip in a car, and there isn't accommodation in a certain location. Maybe you find an RV, you have it delivered and set up for you. It's one of the stops along the way. The RV owner would handle drop off delivery, and it also saves you from having to do any dumping of the tanks or filling them up, and you kind of keep your hands clean from all
Yeah,
of that.
exactly. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. But I'm sure you get this type of question a lot. With like when renting a car, there are companies that you can use, the Avises and Hertz and Dollar and all of those, right? But you can also use Turo, where you get hooked up with a car from a private person, very similar to what you folks are doing, who wants to rent theirs out. But someone like my in-laws would never use Turo because they would only use a rental company because that's how they grew up and that's what they trust. I would guess, but I don't know, and I don't want to assume, but there are probably more people over 50 than under 50 who are renting RVs on a more regular basis. So how do you get older folks to use RVShare and not go with a place like Cruise America?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we see kind of a variety of age demographics. A lot of times our owners are actually more of the 50 plus community, but in that same regard, like to rent out your RV to somebody that you connect with online is something to wrap your mind around and something unique and different than what that generation is used to. So that sharing economy is definitely relatively new still in retrospect. I think RVShare has worked to build up a trusted marketplace and community. A lot of our communications talk about, just being able to vet the owner and or the renter. We have ID verification in place. We're checking, to make sure that they don't have any, background check that we should be aware of and any driving record. And so there's a lot of actual proof points that we go through to make sure that it is a good faith actor on our site, which it can't be said the same for renting on a Hertz or something like that. Like there is a lot more precautions put in place. And we also have built-in insurance. So another big question we get all the time is, will my car insurance cover renting an RV? The answer is no. I mean, an RV is not a car. So you have to have specific RV insurance. We make that really turnkey at RVShare. We have built-in insurance products. So when you go to check out and rent the RV, you might have some questions for the owner. You can do that before you rent. And then you will go through the checkout process, and there is a place to kind of pick your level of insurance. It's very easy. There's different levels and payment structures for you to be able to pick that out before you book the RV, which just puts another layer of security and trust in place.
Yeah, because I was surprised and pleased with the page that's on your website, rvshare.com, that goes through comparisons between what you do and what other companies do when it comes to RV rentals, because you can look at you versus this and you guys versus that. And I mean, it's really, and it's pretty expansive. And it's not just like one or two, like if I was going to have Turo versus Hertz or Turo versus Dollar, and have 3 or 4 comparisons. There are a lot of comparisons on that page. Why'd you guys do that?
I think it is a way to kind of quickly digest what is offered within the industry. The big ones that stand out are the Cruise Americas of the world, are those more like fleet offerings, which means it's a company that owns a bunch of RVs and rents them out, and it's not peer-to-peer. However, you're going to be getting a basic model, something that's only, used for travel multiple times a year. Whereas when you look at an RVShare, it's more the variety types of make and models. And I think what's appealing to a lot of travelers, especially maybe 50 plus, is that you kind of get to try it out and potentially even try before you buy. Maybe you're coming to our site to rent with the intention to possibly buy in the future. And I think once you kind of try it out and do a trip, maybe you're doing only a 3-night trip to really see if the way this RV functions and the layout and if it works for you before you make that larger purchase, is something that people use RVShare for all the time and are looking as a way to kind of do the test run before they make the purchase.
My guest is Maddi Bourgerie. She is with RVShare, the Director of Communication and Travel Expert Spokesperson. We're talking about RVShare and what they do. And how do these costs compare? Typically, I find it less expensive to rent a car through the large rental car companies because I either have a discount program through my credit card or a loyalty program, that sort of thing, rather than Turo. Is it similar with renting a private RV where I might get a better deal with some of the bigger companies than I will with a private person that's going to be sharing it with me?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it totally depends really on the make and model you're looking to rent and the location. I think where a peer-to-peer marketplace like RVShare, you could find some benefit and cost savings is because if you are looking to rent from a bigger market, which tends to be warmer states because there's an extended season. So, Arizona, Southern California, Texas, Florida, we have a lot of RV rentals in those markets. And so there's a lot of competition. And if you're looking to rent it out as an owner, you are setting your own price. So to be competitive, you're going to make sure your price is competitive to those around you. So there is a little bit more, I think, cost savings when it comes to that. And these larger fleet companies don't really have those competitors to necessarily work off of. We are very upfront about our fees and what you can expect when renting an RV. And each owner, again, kind of has control over how they set their prices. They'll have a nightly rate. They might have a mileage fee. So it could say like 100 miles are included with every rental, and or it could be unlimited mileage. But you'll want to do that math beforehand just to know if you would go over on expenses there. And then they'll also have a fee potentially for like delivery. If you want a pet friendly RV, majority of RVs are pet friendly. So it's great for those that want to travel with their pets. And all of that's kind of right there up front and easy for you to kind of digest before you make that final purchase decision.
Yeah. But like with a rental car, it's not the only cost that's associated. There are actually more costs when you get a RV because there's a lot more involved with an RV than just a rental car. Because I have to figure out, especially fuel for an RV, because they're not as fuel efficient as a Honda Civic.
That's right. Yeah, you'll definitely want to consider fuel costs. There's some great tools out there that allow you to do some RV fuel cost calculations. And I find that the miles per gallon is higher, but those tanks are also bigger. So when I've done longer road trips, it's not as always as sticker shock as you might think.
Yeah. And a while back, I had a conversation with the owner of a place called, it's a website, Harvest Hosts, and you've probably heard of them, right? Joel Holland. And they connect people with an RV if they're going to be driving around with people who need a place, who have a place to park it. Not necessarily all the hookups and all of that stuff, but if they have a space that you can park, you can hook it up that way. That's been traditionally, I think, a challenge for some RV users and owners finding a place to stay, right?
I think it definitely was a challenge and a huge worry within the industry when, like back during the pandemic, when a lot of people were hitting the road and traveling. I would say in the recent years, the infrastructure around the outdoor travel space has grown. There's been a lot of investment within building out new campgrounds and new places to stay. And so I find that it's not as difficult to find a place to park, stay, and hook up. Harvest Host is a great resource for that, but there are also other booking sites that make it really easy to find a campground and park for the night or for the week and have those hookups for your RV.
But when you look at all the total costs involved, from the rental to the insurance to the cost to park it if you're going to be doing that, unless you stop at a Walmart parking lot, right? To the gas, when you take an RV or a travel trailer into a national park or a state park, they typically charge you a little bit more because you're towing or have a bigger vehicle. Is it really worth it? Or does the total price come close to just driving your own car and getting a hotel where I can get a free breakfast and I don't have to drain a septic tank?
Yeah, it's definitely not as the most turnkey type of vacation, but I would say the experience is worth it. One of the things that motivate me in my job every day is we have kind of a reviews channel that lot is like a live feed of reviews that are coming up from our travelers, and we have 94% five-star reviews on those that rent from us. And it's because they love this lifestyle, they love this travel, and I think although there's some puzzle pieces to put together, and a little bit extra legwork to plan and take the trip, the outcome is worth it. I've heard from countless families this is their favorite family trip that they've ever taken. And to be able to get outside, disconnect, have that bonfire, look at the stars, go for a hike, maybe hear the river right out your door, and find even a place to camp or experience RV travel, really not surrounded by other people. There's plenty of opportunities to do that. And I think that experience alone makes the planning worth it.
My guest is Maddi Bourgerie. She is the Director of Communications and Travel Expert Spokesperson at RVShare. You can find them at rvshare.com. So during the pandemic, and you mentioned this just a bit ago, there was a large rise in the number of people who were taking road trips in general. Some were taking RVs and travel trailers and that sort of thing. Do you see that? Have you seen that trend continue since now we're 4 or 5 years past the pandemic? And are RVs a part of that travel trend?
Yeah, so the awareness of RV travel and renting an RV has definitely continued to grow. I think it is now part of that travel consideration set. When you're looking to travel to a big city, you're not going to consider an RV. You're going to stay in a hotel, right? But if you're looking to go to the beach, an RV could be part of your consideration. But I'd personally probably rent a house for a big group and get that beach house. But if you're looking to experience some of the great destinations outdoors that the United States has to offer, whether that's the Grand Canyon, Zion National Park, Arcadia, going camping in Michigan. There are so many amazing outdoor destinations. And to do that, you'll want to, consider your accommodation options. And I think RVs are definitely on people's lists of things to consider now. And we've seen just, again, that demographic of interested parties grow. It used to be more a retirement age demographic. Now it is something that younger age groups are looking to. Our main target market for RV travel is millennials with kids. We see so many young families getting outside to experience the outdoors and using RV share to like take them on that journey. So yeah, the pandemic definitely was a huge boost in interest, and we've seen that kind of sustain throughout all the way up to 2025. The outdoor travel industry has continued to grow, and I think more and more people are turning to the outdoors for their vacation.
And you touched on it a little bit, but are there specific places more than just national parks or state parks or places around the country that our people are really interested or would like to go to?
Yeah, we actually put out our 2025 travel trend report at the end of last year, kind of predicting travel trends and places people are going in this next year. And it's so interesting that some of the top destinations people are renting RVs for are event type of experiences. So the Daytona Raceway in Florida, people are renting RVs within that area to head to a NASCAR race. We also see it for there is a place called the Gorge Amphitheater in Washington, and it is during the summer has night after night amazing concerts, and people are renting RVs because they have a huge RV park there. So they're getting them delivered and set up so that they can experience a concert, but have a place to stay right after within the gorge. And so a lot of our top destinations are because of events. So a lot of people are renting RVs for events in 2025.
There was some travel person I was speaking to, or yeah, like late last year. Goodness, I don't know if it was from, I can't remember exactly where they were from. I did so many interviews, but they said, maybe it was AAA, but they said travel to events, to concerts specifically, is a really big trend lately.
Yes, I think we have Taylor Swift to thank for that. The Eras Tour
Right.
definitely set a precedent for people traveling for their passions and for their hobbies. And we saw that in our trend report as well. A lot of people are looking to travel to fulfill that passion, and a lot of times that passion is music and concerts. And so people are spending that money to go to those shows. Maybe they're not in their hometown, but rather traveling to them to have that type of experience.
And what do you see the outlook, not just in the next year or two, but maybe in the next 5 or 10 or 15? Is this still a trend that you're going to see over a longer period of time? Everybody talks about autonomous, vehicles eventually, where you wouldn't be driving yourself or taking your own road trip. So, what is that RV rental look like in the future?
It's a great question. Yeah, I think, like I said, there's a ton of investment going into the outdoor travel space, but also the RV industry. There's some great new brands and popping up that are building the next generation of RVs. There are some, ex-Tesla engineers that are building the first electric RV that will be comparable to things like the Tesla models that we see on the road today. Things that are extremely self-sustaining, whether, they have that Starlink like Wi-Fi or great solar panels and can almost give you back the energy as it's moving down the road so that you're not burning the electric energy as quickly, and really self-sustaining for that camping experience. So I think the technology is really going to advance in the next few years, and just the experiences you can have on the road will continue to grow. I also think the industry itself will consolidate a bit more. And like you said, there's all these pieces that you have to put together, like booking the campground, finding the RV, mapping out your road trip, calculating the gas. Like I hope to see a lot of that be very turnkey, and making our goal is to make booking an RV trip as easy as booking a hotel or a cruise experience. So this industry in that respect is still pretty young, but I think that technology will continue to advance.
Could you ever see a day where you have one of the traditional RVs, not maybe a travel trailer, that is driven autonomously, a self-driving RV, so you can, not just the driver or, everybody else except for the driver in the RV could actually be in the back having a sandwich as you're still driving down the road?
I mean, I think it's possible, especially with the advances we've seen. As you said, I live in Austin, Texas. We see a lot of innovation here. And so watching Waymo cars
Yeah.
autonomously drive around and be a taxi in Texas when you're at the stoplight and you look over and there's no human in the car. So yeah, that concept is becoming more of a reality. So we'll see.
Yeah. My guest is Maddi Bourgerie. She's with RVShare.com. I know this is a bit off topic, but, the devastating wildfires that we saw in Los Angeles left so many homeless. And I told my wife that if we were in that situation right now, I would either rent or buy an RV right away, because at least you would have some kind of a home base and you could start rebuilding at that point because you have something to latch onto, and that gives you the a place to stay, put your stuff, kind of gather your thoughts, and then start moving on from there. But I would think that you're also rebuilding and you're competing for a limited number of rentals, because there's a limited number of apartments and homes and that sort of thing to rent. So I think RV in that kind of an instance, or that kind of a devastating scenario, would be a lifeline for a lot of folks.
Yeah, certainly. And it's the perfect temporary housing. That's what they were created for, right? And so we have seen, especially with when these disasters strike, a lot of people turn towards RVs. RVShare has a disaster relief page, and we offer up our services to try to match those in need with an RV owner within the location to see if we can, help make that connection for a longer midterm or longer term lease on the RV so that they have a place to kind of stay temporarily. The LA fires are unfortunately still kind of, unwinding, and people are still trying to figure out what they're doing. So I haven't, I have seen a lot of great community efforts, a lot of campgrounds that are offering discounts and owners as well. But where we see now that overall playbook play out was with Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. We had a lot of owners step up to the plate to offer their RVs up to those in need. And to your point, it definitely is a great option for those that are unfortunately experienced devastation, such as fires.
I know, I couldn't imagine it. It just, neighborhoods totally wiped out. It's just devastating. Back to that original pitch that came to our newsroom. There are some new travel requirements, including needing a real ID. And you won't need one for spring break this year, but you will for summer travel. For the folks who don't know exactly what that is, explain what a real ID is and how do you get one?
So the Real ID Act was put into place right after 9/11. So we've been talking about this since 2001. It's been delayed and pushed back many, many times. But if you have been to an airport in the last few years, you might have seen the posters that say you need a Real ID by X date. Well, that date is around the corner. It's May 7th. A Real ID is basically a driver's license with that star on the corner, just saying that you have gone through the extra steps of security, which to us from the outside, I don't think looks like much, but basically just means that you have updated his driver's license, and you can do that at your local DMV or online. Again, you just really need to do proof of identity, proof of residency, and a trip to do the DMV will allow you to do that, but you will need that ID, Real ID, by May 7th to fly domestically. And if you don't, your passport would still work. And there's also a list of other identification options on TSA.gov if you aren't going to make that deadline.
Yeah, like you said, passports always are good. You could always use those. And I'm one of those parents that got my babies when they were born a passport as soon as I could. My oldest is now 16 and my youngest is 13. So they still have their passports updated and all great. So it's been a really nice, even though when they're younger, they don't really need it, but they like showing it at the TSA because they feel like they're a big kid.
Certainly, yes. And you don't need a Real ID for anyone under the age of 18. So it's just those above that age. But I agree, passports are fun to have. And I also loved having one as a kid, and you can use that to get through TSA.
And it's also going to cost us, speaking of needing a passport and going, let's say, to Europe or the UK, it's going to cost us a few more dollars if we're going that way. And we're going to have to fill out a new form, right? So why all of these changes to get into Europe where it's going to cost us a little bit more and we have new paperwork to fill out?
That's right. UK just put in a new customs integration requirement. So it's called the Electronic Travel Authorization, the ETA. You'll want to fill this out online or on the ETA app before you travel to the UK. So this is already in place. And it'll cost about $12 per traveler, and you'll want to do that 78 hours or more in advance of your travel. I'd recommend actually doing it a month before, probably, just to make sure you have all the details and you're approved on time. Really, from my understanding, it's just to improve security of their borders, but also hopefully to improve just the, online digital catalog of those that are about to arrive, and hopefully make the immigration and customs process a bit smoother and easier when you're at the border. So, I hope that it cuts down lines and we don't have to wait hours and hours to get in when you arrive, be it really any transportation, if you're coming by boat, train, or flying in.
Yeah. If you don't, then what happens? Because it seemed like I went to with my daughters and from our family. We went to Europe last spring break, I guess, where we flew to London and then we had to go to Ireland. My daughters were in the St. Patrick's Day parade. They're baton twirlers, so they got to march in the parade. But we had no problems going all the way through security. It was just a facial recognition thing, and off we went.
Yeah, my guess would be that if you are flying to the UK, the airlines would give you a heads up that you would need this new paperwork. I'd also say, since it's a rather new requirement, there will be an opportunity to fill this out at the border when you land and get off the flight to go through immigration. And then if you are just passing through, like if it's just a layover in London, you're not actually going through immigration, you will not have to fill this out or have this in your hand. And then in the same vein, Europe is also putting something together that is a similar authorization system, but that one is probably going to launch in April 2025. So if you're planning on traveling to Europe this summer, as something you would want to look out for, similar process, you would fill it out online and with your passport information, and you would want to have that in hand, really in any European country that you would be traveling to within the EU.
You don't have to do any of that in an RV, but you also can't drive to Europe.
Correct.
And if you could, I guess you got chitty chitty bang bang. And before I let you go, what other travel trends are you seeing for maybe this year, and do you expect this to be a record summer travel season?
Yeah, other travel trends we are seeing. A lot of people are looking to travel outdoors. That interest in RV travel is continuing. We are seeing people, again, to mention, they're traveling for their passions and hobbies. A lot of those revolve around music, but also food, and traveling to foodie cities where they can have a unique experience. And I think, travel is going to be a very popular this year. We saw record-breaking travel numbers over the holidays. More people flew over the holidays this past year than ever before. So we're back at pre-pandemic levels. I think that, a lot of people will be looking to plan ahead to get good prices on hotel stays, resorts, and RV travel as well. And so happy travels to those that are in the midst of planning.
Well, there you go. Maddi Bourgerie is the Director of Communications and Travel Expert Spokesperson at RVShare. You can find them at rvshare.com. Maddi, thanks again for being here and for all your insights.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, there she goes. So I'll tell you real quickly, I didn't want to bore Maddi with my details of this, but I was just thinking about it. So the radio station I used to work for, 850 KOA Radio, they asked me, because they're celebrating 100 years of KOA being a radio station. And so they asked former employees, former on-air people, to give a short memory of something that you really remember from your time on the radio station. And one of my memories that I shared with them was the time that when the Broncos won Super Bowl 32, the radio station sent a whole bunch of people from the newsroom to San Diego for that Super Bowl. I was not on. I was not one of them. I didn't go. I still stayed back in Denver. So and they spent a lot of money sending a lot of people out there to San Diego. Then Super Bowl 33, back to back, right? And so it could be John Elway's last game, and the whole thing, there's back-to-back Super Bowls. And so they wanted to get people down to Miami for that Super Bowl, but they also didn't have the same budget, they said, as they did last time. For the previous one. So they wanted to find creative ways to get people to Miami and cover the story of the Super Bowl. And one of the ideas we came up with was to put me in an RV, a rented RV, and and fill it up with some food and stuff, and me just drive myself from Denver to Atlanta, because the Broncos were playing the Falcons, and then on down to Miami. And the whole idea was I was going to stop in the hometowns of some of the Bronco players and fans and family members, and coaches, that sort of thing, and talk to them during the week before the Super Bowl, and then drive to Atlanta, stop there, and then make my way all the way down to Miami. So I get the RV, and we have this deal with two different companies. One with 7-Eleven, so I could fill it up with food. I stopped by a 7-Eleven, and I could just get all this frozen foods and all these different drinks and stuff, and filled up the RV so I could eat. And then the other thing is that Ed McCaffrey, the father of Christian McCaffrey and all the McCaffreys, he had a cereal. and it was called Ed McCaffrey's End Zone O's, and it was basically a Cheerio cereal. And so I had they gave me boxes and boxes of this stuff, and I had it piled up in the RV, and I was supposed to hand out the Ed McCaffrey End Zone O's. So they put me in the RV, and off I go, and I drive down to Amarillo, and I'm driving to these different places. I remember I stopped to see Darren Gordon at the time. I think they called him Chicken Legs, and Keith Traylor, who were on the defense. And I stopped at Bubby Brister's home and spoke to his parents because he was one of the quarterbacks of the team. It was so funny. So I'm in there. I'm in their living room, and I set up my microphone and all. And I'm supposed to talk to, because Mom didn't really want to talk, right? So I was going to talk to Dad. And Dad starts talking, but then Mom interrupts and then starts telling this story and that story. And then Dad, I asked Dad a question because, Mom didn't really want to. But then she goes on and talks and talks. It was really quite cute. I stopped in in Little Rock. There were these fans that have season tickets from Little Rock, Arkansas, and they would drive to Denver for the games and then drive back after the game back to Little Rock. And they had this whole room, a shrine basically to the Broncos and John Elway and everything. And eventually on the Friday before the game, I made it to Atlanta and got razzed because I had Broncos stuff all over the RV. And I would stop at radio stations along the way and be on morning shows and talk about what I was doing, and so that was interesting. So then I made it all the way down to Miami. So the day before the game, so I parked outside the team hotel, and I go into the team hotel, and because I still had to stay in the RV, and this was on the Saturday before the game. The general manager at the time, Lee Larson, said, "Hey, man, you did a great job," because I originally was going to be in the RV parking lot outside the game and just hang out with those people. He said, "You did a great job. Here's a ticket to the game." So he gave me a ticket to go to the game, which was really cool. So on Sunday, I drive down there, but I already have scheduled a flight, just me, in the Blockbuster blimp. Yeah, the Blockbuster blimp. Obviously, Blockbuster not around anymore, the movie rental place. But they had a blimp, and it was just me and the pilot, and so we're flying. And he was explaining it's a lot like in the blimp, you're going up and down on these bubbles of air. So imagine it like a pot of boiling water where you have these bubbles of air. And so that's why you're going up and down. It's like a wave. And so but he could still manipulate the blimp to make it go, pronounce more up or down. So we fly right over the stadium, and he goes, "All right, stand up." And there's a bar, this metal bar that goes across the top of the windshield. And he goes, "Stand up and hold on to that bar." And I have in my one hand a camcorder, an old style camcorder, because we didn't have the cell phones like we do now at that time. Because this was 2000? What was it? 299, 2000, something like that. So I'm holding onto this bar for dear life because as he's diving towards it, we're basically at a 45-degree angle looking straight down at the field of the stadium, and I'm holding onto this bar, and I can feel if I let go, I'm going to go through the windshield, and I'm going to land on the field, and you're going to have a dead guy before the Super Bowl. That would not be good for anybody. But that was a lot of fun. And then I went to the game and had a great time of the game. And then Reggie Rivers, who was a former Bronco, I was sitting next to him. And he didn't want to go to the after party, so he gave me his ticket to the after party, which Big Bad Voodoo Daddy was playing at the team hotel. So I got to go see that and hang out. And then went back to the RV late that night, got a little bit of sleep, and picked up and started driving home the next day. It took me 3 straight days of driving about 12 hours each day to get back home. I made it from Miami to Macon, Georgia, and then the next day from Macon to St. Louis, and then from St. Louis all the way back to Denver, and I was dead tired. I was ready to be out of that RV. I was ready to be done driving. But anyway, that's my RV story that I can share about my experience with an RV, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I didn't really want to use the bathroom that much in the RV because I knew that I would have to empty it and do all that cleaning. So I tried not to, but there's my RV adventure for you. Yay! If you have an RV adventure you wanted to share with me, you sure can. Just go ahead and contact me at any of the contact links in the description of this show. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Jason Looper, the traffic guy. Be safe, and as always, happy motoring.